Everyone, welcome back. In this episode, we're going to talk about dependency inversion to improve the structure and basically the architecture of our application. Now, the first thing that I want to tackle is removing this .NET Core dependency and the way our dependency structure between our applications looks like this. Basically, we have the domain. The database depends on the domain, and the app depends on the database, and then the UI depends on the app. And all of these depend on .NET Core. Okay, so when I say depend on .NET Core, what I mean is they all reference the same SDK .NET Core, ASP.NET Core .app, and whatever version, right? So this package is found in every single project, and really we don't want that. We just want one project depending on that, which is what we're gonna try to achieve. So we will go from here to this structure here, right? So only the UI really needs .NET Core. If our application should be portable, if a brand new framework comes out, or you want to move it to Stack Service or whatever, you will only have to replace this part and not the app and database and domain. And the next step from here will be removing the database dependency of the app. So the database is a detail, and we don't want it in our app. So what we will end up with is this structure. Now, there are trade-offs of time consuming to implement this, but the trade-off in the future, it's a little bit easier to maintain. So let's go ahead and get started. What we will do is go into the shop.domain. Let's go and edit the CS project file. And what we want to do is change this to net standard 2.0. Okay, so this is going to be a .NET standard library. And what we should observe is the dependencies will now change to net standard library. Okay, this doesn't really affect this project that much. I'm going to go ahead and rebuild it, see if I have any errors, and I do. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so we have lost reference to a package that we are not using, so data annotations. I'm actually just going to go ahead and remove all of these. And what we can actually do is maybe remove all of them. If you want, go ahead and remove all of the not used using statements. I am going to do that off screen so we don't waste time. But as far as I'm concerned, let's go ahead and rebuild this, see if we have any more errors. Okay, and that succeeded. Nice. So what we have done now is, if I go here and I will take a red marker, let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay, and I have severed this dependency. All right, so the domain no longer depends on .NET Core. Next, let's go ahead and take care of the database, right? So I'm gonna again just sever this dependency. So shop database. Let's edit the database package. I'm gonna drop this down, and net standard net core app. I'm gonna go ahead and replace it with the net standard 2.0. Okay, and let's see what this does. So if we go into SDK, we have .NET standard. Let's go ahead and rebuild this. Okay, all succeeded. So all the packages that we depend on are already here, and this dependency here is still okay. So let me go ahead and mark the severing of this dependency. Now we can go ahead and do the next one. And this one is going to be the most painful one. So let's go ahead. Let me close these first. Let me where's edit CS proj? So net standard 2.0. Save. And I'll close all of these. I'll rebuild the solution. And I have a feeling that should not have built so easily. Let me check that. Let me actually clean solution. and build it again. Okay. And let me check the dependency on iSession. Okay, so the next step would be to taking this iSession out from this project. And you can see it's really this Microsoft ASP.NET Core.http package that I want to get rid of. So I don't want to depend on .NET Core in my app. So what I'm going to do is I will create an interface instead. So let's go ahead and create a new folder. We'll call it infrastructure. And in here, let's go ahead and create an iSession manager. Okay. So what do we need from our iSession manager? Essentially, this is going to be implemented in the UI layer. And this is because .NET Core essentially belongs to this application. I don't want any parts of .NET Core in my library. So what I want to do is pluck iSession out from here, and then the same thing will happen to the database in the next episode. But for now, we are doing primarily three things. So we want to create a prop, but we want to get an ID. So we get the session ID a lot of the times. We get the cart products from the session, and we we save cart products to the session. So let's go ahead and create a int. Let me double check that the session ID is an int, but nope, it's a string. So let's say string get ID, like that. The next thing, I want to implement a void, and the void is going to add something to stock on hold. So we are going to be expecting a string object. Okay, and string object is going to be a list of cart products. So all we have to do, we're going to be adding one by one. So I want to just add one cart product to there. Okay, so add product, and we're gonna put cart product in here, and let's name it cart product. Okay, and then because this tends to what we're getting from the session is a list of cart products, that's what I want to return, right? So list of cart products, get products. Okay, and this should be it. I'm actually, do we need a session ID here? Stock on hold, session ID. Okay, yeah, so we're using session ID for the database. So we are going to need to pluck that from our iSession interface. Okay, so this shouldn't be that big of a task. Let's go ahead and remove these unused using statements. I'm going to take the iSession manager, and I'm going to pop it here instead of the session. And I'm going to call it respectively. So let me do the import, and then manager and session manager. And let me call it like that. Okay, so the refactoring is done. Next place we can see is where all the errors are occurring. Okay, so we don't necessarily need to implement it. We can basically say, right, we already know what we want, so we can basically grab session manager, get ID, and this should work. Okay. Next thing, we want to do the same here, session manager dot get ID, and this should work. Next thing, we want to get cart. So we want to grab our cart list. All right, so what we can do is, let's say cart list here, and session manager get products. Okay, and since this is a cart list, so let's go ahead and rename this to get cart. We're going to be getting the whole cart from our session. We can remove this, or actually, let's comment this out, where this is going to be happening inside of inside of the session. So actually, now I'm thinking about it, we won't need this either. All we will need to do is create a cart product or no? What do we use to create the cart product, the new one, or add it? We need the quantity and stock ID information. So actually, when we add the product, we want to pass in stock ID and quantity. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove this bit. And what I will do is I'll grab the session manager and I'll say add product. And let's go ahead and say request stock ID and request quantity. Okay, and the rest of this will go into our session manager, right? So I'm gonna keep a hold of this, or actually, what we can do, I'm not gonna keep a hold of this. I'm gonna go ahead and implement the implementation of this, and this is going to be a class, and this is going to be a session manager, which is going to be implementing session manager. Let's go ahead and implement unimplemented methods. So I just press Alt Enter, and that allows me to do that. So get ID, what we will need to do is inject the session into here. Call this session. Let's make a global field. Let's make it read only. Okay, so now this essentially gives us the same thing that we have in our cart. So let's go ahead, copy all of this stuff that we have commented out, and let's put it into add product. And let's uncomment this now. I'll uncomment this top line as well, or I can. No, yes. Okay, so let's grab JSON convert. Let's grab the link library. So instead of request, we just have stock ID. So let's go ahead and replace that. And we just have quantity as well. Here as well, we just have stock. And here we just have quantity. Okay. Nice. Next thing I want to get the ID. So we do supply the ID a couple of times. So all I need to do is, actually I can just make this a lambda expression. So session.id, and that will be it for that. Get cart, we will get to that. Let's go ahead and extract this into its own file. So if I just press Alt Enter on this, at the bottom we have a option to move to type to session manager.cs. So I'm gonna go do that, and that is going to disappear now. And this has disappeared into this infrastructure folder. What I want to do now is create a similar infrastructure folder in my UI layer. Okay, and let's go ahead, grab the session manager and pull it in here. And now instead of application, I'm going to replace this with UI. So it's going to be shop.ui.infrastructure. And now we will have to import the using statement, which is going to be from our shop.application.infrastructure. Okay. Nope. Like that. And now in our session manager, we don't have any using statements other than from our from our domain layer at tops. Okay. So you can see that the implementation for the session now belongs in the UI layer, where really .NET Core runtime actually provides the session to us, and that's where it should reside. Okay. So let's go ahead, let's go around and see if we're using the session anywhere else. Add to cart should be okay here. I can go ahead and remove all these using statements. Get cart. And yep, this right here is where we're using iSession. So let's go ahead and hold up, and we're setting our customer information in there as well. Okay, so we can add two more two more methods. We can say void add customer information, and we can say customer information, get customer information. Okay. And we don't need to supply any information because the person that's going to be using this, the ID of that session is already going to be there. So we can go ahead and grab that. But the customer information, we will have to provide this here. So yeah, let's go ahead and keep a customer. Okay, now in the session manager, again, I'll press Alt Enter and implement the interfaces that are missing. So add customer information. Let's go ahead and see where we are storing this object here. I'm going to go ahead and grab this, go into my session manager and add customer information. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to replace this with this customer. Cool. Okay, so now what I want to do is replace this with session manager. Okay. Let's rename this to session manager. Rename this as well. And now at the bottom here, we can go ahead and grab session manager, add customer information, and we can pass the customer information here. And really what we can do is just grab this new object we're creating, put it in here, and we're done. Okay, so let's close that. Get cart. This is the next part where we're getting the cart from our session. So again, let's replace this with session manager. Put this here. Session manager. There and here. Okay, so all I want to do is say cart list equals session manager dot get cart, and that's it. I will grab this other part, I'll cut it, I will go into my session manager, I will scroll down to get cart, I'll place this here, and I will return cart list at the end. Okay, check here, so let's go ahead and return null here. And what we will need to do is, once we are in our get cart here, or should we just return an empty list? So cart list, any, no, let's say if cart list is null, we will return new list response. Okay, and let's call the constructor. Cool. Yep, that's all right. Let's remove the using statements. And I think by the end of this, since we're only using JSON converters for our sessions here, we will be able to get rid of the dependency on Newtonsoft.json as well. So let's see what else we're going to be doing. Add to cart. Is there anything else relating to sessions here? No. Get cart as well. We cleaned this up. Let's see what else. Get customer information. Okay, so again, this depends on this. So let's say session manager. Like that. And replace the type as well. Okay, we can make this read-only as well, and then make others read-only as well, but that should be alright. So what are we doing here? We are getting customer information. So let's go ahead, copy this. I will go into session manager, and where I get customer information, let's go ahead and replace this. And again, so string, I'll import that if the object is null. Let's actually use the same one here so I don't have to use system. At the end, I want to return customer information. Okay. if the string is null or empty. Okay, so we'll have to do the same check here. So let's go ahead, replace all of this, and let's say customer information. Otherwise, we're gonna get trouble. And get customer information like that. If customer information equals null, return null. Okay. Or no, never mind. Okay, yeah, that's good. Let's close that. And let's see get order. Do we get something from? And we are using iSession. So let's say iSession manager like that. Manager and rename this. Okay, so let's see what we're doing here. We are getting customer information and we are getting the cart. Okay, cool. So we can just get rid of this part. We can, or rather get rid of this part. We can say session manager get cart. And can I replace this with cart? I can. So now it's named with cart and I like that. So let's say next thing is session manager dot get customer information. Remove that. And customer information string, that doesn't need to be a customer information string. We can just go ahead and call that customer information now. And let's remove this. Okay. Let's remove this space here. Using statements. Everything else looks fine. Okay. Let's close this. Remove from cart. Again, we're using a session, so I session manager. Oh. I session manager. Like that. Okay, so session manager. Spell it correctly. Let's rename everything. Okay, I created an iSession manager here accidentally, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Next thing, what are we doing here? Again, we're trying to do something with the cart list, and we're removing something from cart. Okay, so let's go ahead and say void remove product. And I'm suspecting we're not going to need more than the stock ID and quantity. Okay, so when we're removing from cart is serialize object and we're setting it here. Okay, so that's the last bit of iSession manager that we want to do. So let's go ahead and what do we need for this? We need the stock ID and we need the quantity. Yeah, so this information here will be enough. Let's go into session manager. Again, I'll press Alt Enter and implement interface. The yellow line on the right will indicate where it was created, so you can go scroll down to there. I'm going to go into remove from cart. I'm going to press Ctrl X to cut everything. And I'm going to highlight this and paste it into here. Okay. So we no longer want to return true here. Perhaps we just want to return. Or we want to indicate that we have removed it. So let's actually return true here. Let's say bool. And we will change this to bool as well. Okay. Or do we want to indicate? Does it really matter? I don't think it does. Let's go ahead and change this back to void. What I will do here is we don't really need to proceed here, so I will return here. And here we can return as well. Okay, let's replace this with stock ID, and quantity. And I don't think we're missing anything else from here. Let's go into remove from cart. Let's take our session manager and I am missing an import. And no, I'm not. I have actually created this again. Manager. Okay, just gotta spell correctly. Okay, there we go. So iSession Manager dot remove product request stock ID and request dot quantity. Okay, nice. Next thing I want is session manager get ID here. So get ID, just like that. And the rest of it should be okay. All right, let's remove all the using statements and everything looks fine. Let's close that. Let's see if there is anything else that depends on it. So create order. I don't see an iSession manager here. The next thing, get order. No iSession manager here either. That's nice. Orders admin. Nope, 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 nope. And next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing. Stock admin. I doubt anywhere else other than the cart is it present. Yep. So let's go ahead, close all documents. So we have successfully removed the iSession from our application. Let's go ahead, try to clean this, and Ctrl-Shift-B to build this. Okay, and we have a couple of errors, so let's check out what the first one is. Remove product int. It does. Or wait, am I looking at the wrong shop.application.infrastructure? Okay, so I have copied the, what's it called? The interface, but I have not removed it. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the session manager from the infrastructure folder in my application layer. Okay, so I'll remove that. Let's go ahead and build this. Okay. All right, so what happens next is most of our services that we are invoking here will now give us an error that we are not passing the session to them. And that's all right. What we want to do now is let's close everything. Let's collapse this as well. All the errors are in our shop UI now. What we can do is let's go into startup. We will grab the services, and where we add session, let's go ahead after this services as again services dot add transient, or do I want this singleton? I think transient to be safe. Session manager. So I'm gonna grab the session manager and then session manager, the implementation buddy. Thank you. Yep, use this statement. Okay, so hopefully by now you can see that sort of the power of this iSession manager interface is coming from the application layer. So really all we're doing is exposing the interface that is living in the application layer, but the implementation for this interface is coming from the UI layer. Okay, something that actually owns this session. So what this allows us to do is that the application layer doesn't know anything about how this iSession works or the underlying technology of the iSession, right? So let's go ahead and fix up the way we're adding iSession to our session manager, because if we go into the session manager, before we got the iSession from our HTTP context, and the reason we moved out the session manager and the sessions from the shop or from the application layer is because we want to add these services to our dependency injection container, and we don't have access to the HTTP context in our application. Our application knows nothing about the .NET server-side framework and the HTTP context. It wants to know. It wants to have nothing with it. All right. So we need to inject the HTTP context into our session manager and grab the iSession from there. And if we type in HTTP context, we bring up the class, but not the actual session that we would get if we would go into the cart and we would type in HTTP context and then we grab the session, right? So it's not the same thing. we need to inject an HTTP context accessor to get the HTTP context from there. All right, so let's go ahead into our startup, and what we're going to do is we're going to go into services and we're going to type in add HTTP context accessor, and this is a method that .NET Core provides us with, and this basically sorts us out with an HTTP context accessor, which allows us to get the HTTP context. I'm going to go ahead, cut this, and put this at the top. Yep. Let me type this out because I lost my thing. Yep. So I'm going to put this at the top because if we have any other services that depend on the HTTP context accessor, if it's injected after a service is used in, you're going to get a nasty error. So after we have added this here, let's go ahead back into our session manager and let's add the HTTP context accessor, and let's replace this with the appropriate name. And now replace the session with this. We can then go in and grab the HTTP context and grab the session. So now we are properly injecting HTTP context into our service, and again, this whole thing is scoped to the shop.ui application, nothing to do with our actual application layer. So let's go ahead and close this, and let's go back here. So now that that's done, let's go ahead and build this and see all the errors that we get. So there's quite a few to get through. So let's start with the first one. So since we have the database context available to us through dependency injection and the HTTP context accessor as well, what we can do is grab our add to cart from a service. Okay, so let's go ahead and say from services, and we're going to grab add to cart, and let's call it add to cart. And now all we can do is add to cart, and actually we don't need this line here. Okay, and we will have to do this for each of our services that we're replacing. So let's go ahead and do that. And remove from cart. So boop, I'll grab the class name from services. Remove from cart. And now we can remove this and add to cart. Hold up. Why is this called add to cart? Shouldn't be called add to cart. Let's rename this. Remove this. Okay. Next thing, same thing here. So let's go ahead and rename this. Remove from cart. From services. Remove from cart. Remove from cart. Okay, and again it's called add to cart because I have not been paying attention. This whole controller can be actually simplified as well as I look at it now. So we might tackle this a little bit later on, but this control looks done. Let's close this, open the error list, and let's keep going. And actually, hold up. Let's go to the cart controller, and as you can see, we're not using the context anywhere anymore, so we can go ahead and remove the constructor. So now instead of injecting the appdb context and creating a service, we're just injecting the service. Okay, so now we can go ahead and remove the dependency on the database from here as well. Okay, so yeah, now the cart controller is done. Next one is actual cart. What is this? Cart CS.html. So I'm just basically going through the error list. So the next one up is cart CS.html.cs. We're going to do the same thing here. We can go ahead and remove the constructor. I can grab from services the getCart class, and I can call it getCart, and all I will need to do is replace this with the getCart name. Okay, and let's actually pop this back on the same line, remove the using statement, and close this. Next thing, let's go to cart view component.cs. I'm not sure if we can inject from services into here. I will try though. I will try my best. from services, we can. And let's go ahead and do get cart. This might crash. If it does, we'll fix it. No problem. Let's replace this as well. And again, we can get rid of the constructor. And it's crying about something here. It must appear after. Okay, so it looks like we can't. I will, or actually, wait, hold up. Maybe I will need to put this in front. So, yep, the optional parameter had to be, what's it called, at the end here. This should be good. If it doesn't, we will move this to the constructor. I think, thinking about it, you know, I will just be safe. I will leave that method alone. And I will pop this here. Get cart. Let's copy this. Let's create a global field. Initiate it. And let's pop it in these other places. Okay, nice. Best to be on the safe side. I don't want to rerun this application too many times. And next thing, add to cart. I know we can do this from services here. From services, add to cart. Add to cart. Let's go ahead and replace this. To do, actually, I'll leave this to do that. That was a good to do. Let's see if we're using the context anywhere. We're doing it in new get product here, but I'm not going to touch that just yet. Now, where were we? Right, more. Next thing is customer information.cshtml.cs. It looks like we're using it in two places here. So let's go ahead and add customer information. Yep, let's go ahead and get this from services. Add customer information. A little bit long-winded, but what are you gonna do? Better to be more descriptive. Can pop this to a new line. Alright, get customer information. Same. From services. Get customer information. Let's pop this to a new line. Let's replace this part with get customer information. Good. And now the same thing we will do here in payment.cshtml.cs. Actually, get customer information. I'm not sure if we were using, no, we weren't using anything but the session. And here again, we're only using just the session. And the context, let me see where we're using the context in get order and in create order. Okay, so that's fine. We will leave the application DB context, but let's go ahead and inject the rest. Nope, wrong thing. From services, get customer information, get customer information. Replace this with the name, drop this to a new line. Next thing is the get order. So let me pop these two new lines. From services, get order, and let's replace this part here. Okay, and the rest should be good. Let's rename this to cart order. Smaller cases for local variables. Ambiguous reference. Okay, so let's see which one it was. Application.cart. Okay, so we're getting it from cart. So let's create a using get order. Let's use an alias for get order cart. So let's do that. Let's put this here. Okay. So this alias is literally, it's still the same type. The alias just means there's a different name for this just in this file. Okay. So let's go ahead and build this. I don't think we have any more errors. We don't. Let's go ahead and see. I'm gonna close everything. I'm gonna go into my shop.application and I'm gonna edit the CS project file. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this reference to Newton's of JSON. I'm gonna close that and I'm gonna clean the solution and I'm gonna rebuild it again as well. So Control-Shift-B, and hopefully I get no errors. Nope, I get a namespace error. So this namespace error here doesn't really belong here anymore. We're not using Newton's of JSON here. and there's, oh, DLL not found, but that's because it hasn't built properly. So I'm going to build it again, and there we go. All right, so let's see if the application still works. So let's say Control F5. Now I'm actually expecting to see one or a couple errors regarding dependency injection, and this is because I want you to see what this error looks like. So if you ever get an error, unable to resolve service for type shop application get cart while attempting to activate the view component, right? So if we go to our view component now in shop.ui, view components, and it's this service here that it's trying to inject, and it cannot find it. So when I'm saying inject a service, it's something that should be registered in with a dependency injection container, something similar to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my add application services right here, and I am going to add all of my services from here. I might clean this up later. If you want to know how to do this clean, go watch my video on clean dependency injection. I will leave a link in the description or the comments. So I'm going to quickly just go into cart. I'm going to check anything else if I changed anything else. I don't think I did. No, I didn't. All I want to do is basically grab all these services and inject them. So let's go ahead, say this dot add transient, and let's go ahead and go through them one by one. So add customer information, bop, there. Oh, not sure what I pressed there. And let's copy this a few times, and let's open it. All right, let's type it out. So get cart, get customer information, get order, and remove from cart. All right, so we have ambiguity. I'm gonna just specify the namespace here. So cart.getOrder, and this is orders.ordersAdmin, I think. And does it need a little hand? Shop application, yeah, and a little hand here as well. Okay, so this should take care of injecting these services into our dependency injection container. So let's go ahead and run this again. Okay, all right, so here is our humble shop, nothing in the cart. Let's go ahead and add something. Submit, there it is. If I go back and add something again, nice. If I add it, cart is not updating, which can be a bit of a problem, but not really that bothered. Remove everything, nice. And remove doesn't work. Sweet. Undefined. All right, so there's a couple of errors. Let's see what the remove does. Undefined. So 500. Remove all. Let's go ahead and see what that does. Cart controller. Let's remove everything here. And let's see what's happening here. See if I can see anything in the output inside here. Okay, and let me scroll down all the way to the bottom. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Remove from cart line 38. So let's go into remove from cart to line 38. And it will be right here. And it will be the stock, I'm assuming, that we are unable to find. So let me see what I'm passing here. Let's look at the stack trace again. So we're removing all. Am I in the correct remove from cart? Yeah, all 37, 38, 38, yeah. So something is null. Stock on hold can be null. So if request is all, we might be getting session ID null here. Very possible. Let's go ahead and debug this. Let's see what's happening. Okay, so I probably lost my cart. I did. Let's go ahead and add a item, and let's remove it. F10. So stock on hold. We do have something. Stock. We do have something. Quantity. We got one. Okay, and we did. And but it didn't remove it from session. Is it meant to come from session? It didn't remove it from cart. Guessing remove product didn't work because we're getting our cart from the session. So let's go ahead and check this out. Let's go into implementation. So we're gonna go into infrastructure, session manager, and remove from cart. Where is it? Remove product. Okay, cart list. Let's go ahead, put a breakpoint here. Try to remove this. I think the second time that we're trying to remove it is when it breaks. So cart list, we have one. Okay, find quantity is 0. Okay. Alright, I get it. So we're not passing any quantity when we're trying to remove it from our session. So that is a bug. So let's go ahead and stop the application. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this remove product from session. I'm going to put it differently here, because we're only specifying quantity when we are removing it from, what's it called? When we're removing by a single item. If we're removing everything, I want to pass in the quantity of everything. So this is going to be the stock on hold quantity. So let's grab stock on hold and pass it here. This bug was probably there before the session. I can't believe I didn't grab that. So let's go ahead and try this again. So I'm going to grab this item. I'm going to add 2. I'm going to add one more. I'm going to try to remove it. Refresh. Okay, remove one more. Refresh. Let's add a couple. Remove. And it removes all of them. Okay, except that last one, which which it should have done. Remove product. And I guess again, this is something we should have handled in the iSession manager. We're essentially not removing it completely. So let's back this up. We want to grab this item. So let's go ahead and grab first. So let's say we want to grab this product. We're going to grab this product. And what we're going to do to this product is we're going to subtract the quantity from it. Alright, and once we have subtracted the quantity, if the product quantity is less than or equals 0, so it no longer exists, this is when we want to go ahead and just remove it from cart list. So we just want to go ahead and remove the product. Okay, nice. Let's go ahead and run this. Alright, let's go to medium. Let's grab 5 of these. Decrease, refresh, decrease, refresh. Remove all of them, and they're all removed. Okay, nice. I think that is looking good. A little bit bumpy, as it always is with refactoring, especially if you don't have unit tests, which we don't. But hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and you can see the power of having your implementation, or rather, basically the implementation hidden away, and your application layer doesn't know anything about how this iSession manager is implemented. All it knows is that we're gonna get these functions, we're gonna call them, and the stuff that is gonna get called should happen. And the thing that actually implements this interface is this session manager here. And this is what is actually taking care of providing the iSession, because that can only come from the HTTP context accessor. Okay, so we don't actually want to pour in our .NET Core functionality into our application, because if .NET Core becomes obsolete, or if you want to port it to .NET, I don't know why you would want to do that, but if there are other frameworks as well except other than .NET, ASP.NET, you might want to use them or port to them, and this will allow you to make that process a little bit easier and save the application, save your changes to the UI layer. Okay, so hopefully I rambled on for enough. Let me grab this painting here and let me put this big fat cross. Where is it? Right there. Whoa, I want to grab the same color. And let me put the big cross here. That cross is not big enough, guys. Come on. Big cross. There we go. So now that we have severed these three ties, we are essentially at this stage here. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to sever this tie and go from this structure to this structure. Okay? But so you can actually expect a pretty long episode, because this one was pretty long. But other than that, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Leave a like, subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. If you would like me to do an episode on unit tests, so let's say we want to write some unit tests regarding actually testing the functionality of this session manager, leave a comment. But as always, thanks for watching. See you in my other episodes.